Well, Ajit, let me address the education issue because you said that that is going to be a key use case as far as the metaverse is concerned. Now, I believe that there is a partnership that you are inking with CBSE to train 10 million students and 1 million teachers in AR and VR. How is that going to work? When does this kickstart? Can you lend a little more color on that front?
Absolutely, Shireen. We started working with CBSE about a year ago, Shireen, and the idea was, how do we contribute to STEM education in the country through the power of the particularly special role that CBSE plays in education in India? And we started working on the agenda of STEM, wellness, as well as how do you build AR capacity and awareness among students. We were very pleasantly surprised by the first set of numbers that came in. I think we touched more than 350,000 students, although the objective was far less than that. And therefore, both CBSE and Meta saw this as an opportunity fundamentally to scale the program and train students and teachers to understand the power of AR, as well as in classes 9 to 12, even find ways to use AR in the curriculum itself. And I think you can imagine, Shireen, that people who are in standard 1 today or even standard 9 today, the world that they're going to enter, even the colleges that when they enter colleges or when they enter the workforce, the world is going to look quite different. And I do think this is a bet to make sure that they're introduced early into disruptive technologies that are surfacing today, including a lot of work that we're doing in AR that will become the norm by the time they enter the workforce, which is why we have set a pretty ambitious goal for ourselves in terms of skilling and training 1 million teachers and 10 million students. And we're really grateful to have a partner like CBSE who really has the wisdom to make this a part of their curriculum and their way of learning so early. I think this is ahead even when you look at education around the world, Shireen.
Yeah. Well, just to take that forward, what is it going to mean in terms of opportunities that you look at and opportunities that you invest in? The kinds of investments that we've seen you make in a company like Meesho, for instance. So given the focus on SMBs, given the focus on education, given the focus on shaping the metaverse, what will that mean in terms of the quantum of investments and whether you're likely to make more investments, the kinds that you've done with Meesho?
I think the answer is yes, Shireen. I think if you've looked at us since 2006 and especially since 2010, when we first opened our office here, we have continued to look at India as a special country where we have this big canvas and an opportunity to have impact. And of course, it's aided by the fact that we have platforms in Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp that are frankly quite loved in the country, that are deeply immersed in the fabric of everyday living. And therefore, we will continue to invest. I think those investments may happen in the form of investments in startups. I think a partnership with Jio is a big part of how we think about developing the ecosystem and piloting new models. And we will continue to invest into the small business ecosystem, Shireen. I think the reality is, even if you look at what we have done in the last 3 years, whether leaning in to create training programs for SMBs in multiple languages, or the loan program that we have created, which has made it easy for small businesses to access loans, where we have worked with third-party lending aggregators. The idea is that when we lean into the ecosystem, not just in terms of the products that we build, but even in terms of the programs that we can design and we invest, eventually we do believe that we will benefit ourselves, not just in the growth of our platform, but even in terms of the revenues. I think a lot of reasons why you were indicating the big revenue growth that we have seen even through the pandemic in the last 12 months, I think is an outcome of us making it easy for our platforms to be used by businesses, most of whom use it for free. But eventually, as they scale up in size, as they start to increase their ambition to want to reach nationally as well as target global markets, we know that we will benefit. But I do think our lens on India is not just coming from a revenue point of view, Shireen. We genuinely believe that there is a once in a generation opportunity to have impact in a country which is undergoing massive transformation. And the reality is that transformation is really being powered by technology. And therefore, we believe that we have a particular role to play.
Well, since you speak about India as well as the impact that Meta wants to have on India, we cannot ignore the allegations that have been made by the whistleblower in the complaint raised, including in a market like India, where documents released indicate that internal red flags were raised ahead of the 2019 Lok Sabha elections. Reports raised concerns about polarizing nationalistic content, misinformation, violence. I know, Ajit, that you said on the day that you inaugurated your new office as well here in Gurgaon that Facebook does not want to do business with bad actors. But what kind of course correction are we likely to see in light of these very damaging allegations?
I think it's an important question, and let's make sure we spend some time on it, Shireen. And I'll address the specific allegations that you were referring to. I think it's important to understand the context. I think a lot of these allegations assume that in some way that we don't have the intent to do the right thing, or that we have the incentive to do the wrong thing. And both are wrong, Shireen. The reality is that we don't want content that all of us can agree is bad for the world on our platform, whether that's hate speech, whether there's incitement to violence. And frankly, our economic incentive is aligned because our advertisers don't want to see those kind of content on our platforms either. So that's on the intent. Then the question, Shireen, to ask is, have you translated that intent into action? And the answer is yes. Since 2016, we have spent $13 billion on the agenda of safety and security, $5 billion this year alone. We have more than 40,000 people, most of whom have been hired in the last 5 years, Shireen, essentially working on the agenda of safety and security. Now, you could look at that and say, well, you're a large company. These seem large numbers, but are they consequential?
Yeah.
And what I would say is judges, even relative to our size, and judges relative to what every other tech company is doing. And I think what you will see is whether it is from a policy point of view, whether it's enforcement of our policies, the investments that we are making, both in terms of the dollar amount as well as headcount, I do think you will realize when you do the comparative analysis, Shireen, that we stand out versus every other tech company in the world. We are the ones leading the agenda. And then the question to ask is, okay, if your intent is real and your actions are real, are you actually making a material impact on the outcomes? And the numbers show that that is the case. I think today, if you look at the prevalence of hate speech on our platform, so look at everything that people see and how much hate speech is there, it's 0.03%. Is it zero? No. But has it dramatically come down? Absolutely. I think our objective is for this number to be zero. But can that ever be zero? I don't know, Shireen. I think the reality is that when you have 3.5 billion people on our platform, we will reflect a lot of good that's happening in the world and sometimes a lot of bad that's happening in the world. And I don't think it'll be possible to entirely bring it down to zero. But is the intent there? Are the right investments being made? And can you see the progress on the numbers? Absolutely. So the question then, I think if you recognize how we think about it, I think the question is, what did all of those revelations mean, including revelations on the research into Instagram? I think you were alluding to the work around election integrity in India. Couple of things. I think a lot of what those research indicated was that we're constantly trying to figure out, Shireen, how we can be better. Those documents were research that was commissioned by us. Those research documents itself actually called out a lot of things that were working well, including on a platform like Instagram. But it also asked the question, what can we do better? I like the fact that as a company, we ask the question, where are things wrong and what can we fix and what can we do better? And these were research materials that were freely available for every employee in the company to read. So we were not making an effort to hide them. I think that indicates the nature of how we think about it. The objective is to keep trying, keep raising the bar. And when it comes to election integrity, I will argue, Shireen, that of every tech platform in the world, we probably have done the most in terms of creating transparency around election activity on our platform, including transparency on political ads. I don't think we have seen that kind of an effort on political ads, which has allowed, frankly, a lot of civil society and analysts and journalists to evaluate what is going on because we have put that data out in the public. So I come back to what you mentioned, that when we opened the center last week in Gurgaon, where we committed to fueling entrepreneurship and the agenda of creators in India, that the agenda of safety and security is one that we are fully committed to. We take it very, very seriously. We have made progress, but we believe that we continue to do better.
You know, Ajit, and this is a complex issue, and it's not going to be addressed in a few minutes on this interview. But I hopefully will get more time with you in a later interview to delve deeper into these issues. But very quickly, I want to understand from you, as we await the parliamentary decision on the new privacy laws and the new privacy guidelines, you know, the aspect of ensuring that platforms like yours are liable for content, if that were to go through, what would that mean?
Look, I've seen a lot of articles that are talking about what could be in the bill. I would much rather wait and see what is actually in the bill, Shireen. I know, you know, there's been a lot of consultations going on this over a long period of time. Whenever we have had the opportunity, we have presented our views. We have welcomed regulation. We believe the agenda of privacy is the right one. But I would wait for the bill to actually be tabled before I form a point of view, because I don't know what is in it.
Yes, we are awaiting the details as well, and we don't know whether it is going to be taken up in this session of Parliament or not. But Ajit, as always, many thanks for addressing a whole host of issues here on CNBC TV 18 and taking us through what the plans are for the company going forward. Appreciate your time, and thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up the CNBC TV 18 Newsmaker. From all of us here on the program, goodbye. Many thanks for watching.
This is